also because the public has already this view of what the Broadcasting Commission does, they're going to have that resistance to feel that if they're coming over to their TikTok or their YouTube or their IG, Instagram or Twitter, they are invading somewhat into that space.
And now people have technology where they just get a little snippet of our voices and are able to ring up our parents and have us be telling our parents that we have been kidnapped and they need to send some money.
This week we bring you part 2 of our conversation with Cordell Green, Executive Director of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica and attorney at law, looking mostly at regulations, social media, and the trends in artificial intelligence, plus closing off with his vital tips for success. Stay with us.
Most prominent producer them in the industry tell Tony that he could not bust a female artist because
Failing is one thing. Failing publicly is a very hard thing.
I said I was holding my mouth, the lies were going, and I sat and I saw women on the TV just lying bluntly, just like that.
Released the All Media survey, and when you look at the name Ron Mushet, 0,
What?
0, 0.
You know, I had to fend for myself at an early age. In fact, my mother became mentally ill when I was 9 years old.
I sold everything and went to my wife and said, and she said to me, "All right, no problem. She will back me. Just leave the house."
From entertainers, politicians, business leaders, and more, the Trailblazers with Tamara McKayle on YouTube has it all.
That I'm new to this.
I did movies with Denzel Washington. Then I wrote Baps, and that's starring Halle Berry.
You wrote Babs!
I wrote Baps,
Oh no!
Subscribe now for a brand new year of inspiration and strategies to make it from the best of the best. Plus catch up on episodes you may have missed. It's the Trailblazers with Tamara McKayle on YouTube.
Our argument was, look, we now regulate cable very differently than television, free-to-air television. So when you come to the internet and social media and you're talking about regulation, that also requires a different intelligence. So
that you wanted to have some amount of regulation of the social media space, but in a different way, a different approach.
Yes. In fact, we were emphasizing digital literacy, that if you cannot, it's irresponsible for your people to be not prepared for a space where they are being exploited, their data being collected, their private information being collected, they are at risk of being manipulated, they are getting things ostensibly for free without knowing that there really is a cost, which is their private information. We were saying it's your obligation as the first limb of regulation is digital literacy. Well, can I tell you, we were pilloried. We wrote things in the Gleaner. People started talking about freedom of expression, and then what happened? There's the bombing in Christchurch in New Zealand. Facebook streamed the entire thing. One of the most horrible incidents in the world. Terrorism, live streamed. The Prime Minister then came out and said, "This cannot work. We are not standing for this. New Zealand isn't standing for this. We need to step in and do something." Shortly after, Facebook started talking about there's a need for this space to be regulated. And look at where we are now. The UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence, everybody jumping up, running around like headless chickens concerned about chat GPT. You have to put, you can't You can't stymie innovation. You cannot stop your people from accessing information and content and in being innovative and expressive, but there is an obligation to protect the most vulnerable. And right now, the most vulnerable will include you and I. We give up so much information about ourselves that there are people now taking decisions about us. Like if I search for a car, they have already decided what car not to show me. Okay? Yeah, we're not going to start with certain type of car because we put him in a certain category. Same thing with educational opportunities. A lot of our people in Jamaica are hearing nothing about scholarships and fellowships that are available for all types of professions and vocations, because there are people who are using our own searches to determine what to send us. So for some of us, they say, well, you know, no, every time Rihanna sneeze, that come up in your thing, you know, and we feed you that kind of thing.
The algorithm.
When a fellowship or a scholarship comes up, we send it to some other people.
Because they're searching for that. Or maybe they did that one search and the algorithm. All right. So
or they are just inherently biased. Their algorithms are inherently biased.
I never thought
discriminate, just like how Etana said, you come from a certain address, is the very same thing now. All our prejudices, if you don't have a framework in place, those prejudices get right into these algorithms that are taking decisions about what we are accessing and how. That's deciding content that's being fed to us.
So what do we do? What do we do? And what, especially in terms of the social media landscape and any form of regulation, especially in Jamaica, what is going to be done? Or what do you propose then? It's because, as you rightly mentioned, discussions about freedom of expression, and because the public has already this view of what the Broadcasting Commission does, they're going to have that resistance to feel that if they're coming over to their TikTok or their YouTube or their IG, Instagram or Twitter, they are invading somewhat into that space.
So you see, Tamara, that's an important, because I've heard that narrative also, and that narrative is partly, it indicates part of the problem. Like even with some of these the debates about music that's deemed inappropriate, and you hear some people say, yeah, right now, man can just put the music online, and as if we are pretending that Facebook doesn't regulate. We are pretending that Instagram doesn't regulate. They do, and we know that.
They do.
YouTube is working now with the Metropolitan Police in England, taking off certain genres of extremely violent, hate-spewing, hate speech music off YouTube. And we know that they have taken down volumes and volumes of material. The truth is, some of them don't care about us. First of all, they don't understand some of what it is that we are saying or singing anyway. And secondly, they really don't care. So we can sing, kill them, shoot them, murder them shoot out your marrow, make it fly like ply, whatever we want to say, them not care, right? As long as they're having our eyes and it is selling ads, that's fine. Listen, digital literacy is key. That's key. We really need to embed that in the schools from kindergarten. Our people need to understand the true power that is available to us as a people. So we're in this new space, and our people, we have to make sure that they understand fully what the space is, the great opportunities, but the risks, because it doesn't come intuitively. You're not going to go on the internet and intuitively fully appreciate the extent to which major companies are in a position to manipulate you. So there, you think you're deciding things, but there's really no rational decision making taking place. That there are people who are actually focused on technology that is invading, designed to invade our mental autonomy. If at least you're aware of that, you may take a different approach when you go into the space. People just see it as a safe space. They upload photos, they put on stuff. And what are we now discovering? Now people have technology where they just get a little snippet of our voices and are able to ring up our parents and have us be telling our parents that we have been kidnapped and they need to send some money, or we're in the hospital and they need to send some money, or attributing to us statements that are not true. That's the space in which we are operating. How in heaven's name can that be a space that has no structure, no governance? That is chaos.
And that you just mentioned is very concerning, and that leads me to that discussion regarding AIs, because of course artificial intelligence, it's the buzzword everywhere nowadays, and I mean obviously it has myriads of benefits. So we want to touch on the innovation of it and the usefulness of it in every profession, to the point that many are in fear that some professions will become obsolete, or because of the work and the innovation of AIs. But at the same time, as you just mentioned, there are many dangers lurking. In fact, just recently I was reading an article about a so-called godfather of AI who has left Google and warning of dangers ahead. So
you know the funny thing, that guy has left Google, but there's another guy at Google who is Google's chief engineer called Ray Kurzweil. And Kurzweil had been saying for a very long time that by 2045, we're going to have what is called the singularity, right? Where people like him are working on and projecting that they're going to create artificial intelligence that will entirely supersede human intelligence, having cognitive capabilities and so on. Now, obviously, there are people who were carrying on that this is, far away, and not listening to people like Kurzweil, who was talking about 2045. It now appears that some of these things might happen earlier.
Yes.
So it's good to hear this godfather coming out. But where was he when Professor Stephen Hawking at Cambridge University many years ago, before he died, was raising questions about this being an existential threat, that we needed to not stifle the innovation or stifle the technology, but recognize that we needed to stop and think about it the way we do a nuclear power or pharmaceuticals or airplanes, or we have aviation law, right? So we are not creating technology for the first time which can do things better than human beings or faster, right? We have airplanes. We have made rockets. We're sending people out to the space station. You and I can't get up and go in space. That's technology. It's the scale. What is different is the scale. This chat GPT, I think I made a note of it here because every time I have to look at it to believe it. In 5 months after launch, reached 1 billion users. No other technology has scaled like that in human history.
For real, because I must admit I'm one of the users of it. And at the same time, as you rightly mentioned, there has to be a balance. So how do we create that balance where we use the innovation, we use it to advance, for example, in our careers or whatever that we're doing, but at the same time, look at
start at the design stage. You start at the design stage. You say, if you're creating a technology that is truly a general purpose technology, it's not a matter of debate. We know that. People like Kurzweil has said it. Professor Stephen Hawking has said it. Even Mr. Twitterati has said it.
Elon Musk.
Right? Although he may have another motive. So what you have to do is ethics is critical, and governance, right? You can't leave it up to engineers just to be putting out fast tracking, diffusing technology that scale so exponentially that are so transversal in impact, and you just sit around and say, well, let them do it and let's see what comes of it. You have to, and that is happening now through bodies such as the IEEE, which is a kind of global standards body. I am sitting on 2 working groups now, one of them that's looking at governance of AI for enterprise, that is talking about the responsibility of those who are responsible for governance to ensure that we take account of risks and mitigate these risks as the technology is being developed. The UNESCO has created the recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence that is pointing the way for states.
And you're also part of the Caribbean AI initiative. So we are not reactive in any way. These are things that you have been putting in place.
Well, it's so good that you're aware of this. I'm actually quite impressed. Again, the Broadcasting Commission trying to future-proof as much as we can. Collaborated with UNESCO on the Caribbean Artificial Intelligence Initiative. This was before lots of the explosion that's going on now and people jumping up about chat GPT. It preceded the UNESCO recommendation on the ethics of AI. We just recognize that in this new dispensation, we should be rule makers and not rule takers. We just can't sit around and let other people shape how the world is to evolve. So we embarked on this initiative that led to the Caribbean AI policy kind of blueprint roadmap. And I'm very happy to say that I had a discussion with the advisor for communication and information at the UNESCO Caribbean office, and they are now looking at resuscitating that initiative in a project that they are likely to be announcing sometime in the future. But yes, our policy makers, and when we say policy makers, we mustn't think government. It's policymakers at all levels, because different people make different types of policies. All our leaders and ordinary people need to be au fait with artificial intelligence, because it is already changing all the operating systems in society. So, for example, let's take tourism. The tourism that we offer, right? We can't compete with what's going on down in Dubai. Those people are creating an artificial world that is out of this world. They're creating their own moon and all kinds of things down there. But none of that can match the sheer power of the Jamaican people. That is why Jamaica is a global brand. We have never had a lot of money. We don't have any weapons. We don't launch war. We don't colonize anywhere. But Nelson Mandela in prison was aware of Jamaica as a leader in the anti-apartheid movement. Lots of freedom fighters reference Bob Marley. Marcus Garvey has to take a lot of credit for lots of the Black consciousness movement that is going on now in the United States, where he went and organized Black people. And everywhere you go, whether we form gang, or we turn Secretary of State, or one of our sons, Harry Belafonte, would become the first man to sell 1 million records. Jamaica and Jamaicans and the Jamaican blood, it's just like that. Okay, we little but we Talawa. So we know it is about the people. It's not about concrete jungles. It's not about these massive constructions that is cement, concrete. People are going to build bigger ones elsewhere. What they can beat is when a tourist comes to Jamaica and go buy a coconut. That moment with the coconut vendor, they talk about it for years. Whatever goes on, I don't know. But they will be talking about John the Coconut Man because of something that he says. So here's the thing now. Do we want robots to be serving coconuts in Jamaica? Do we want robots to be welcoming guests when they come into our hotels? That's highly, highly possible in the next few years that would be perfected. We can have people turn up and we can have efficiency, automation of a lot of these things. We have to start to have these discussions. We may have to be saying to people, listen, you can automate the laundry, you can automate whatever, but the tourist-facing activities, not bother with that in a Jamaica. You can do it in a Japan if you want. You can do it down in Saudi Arabia if you want. But in Jamaica, that is our wealth, that is our true oil. So we are running a human-centric program of tourism, and that is our sustainable development. That's a conversation we need to have. If we don't have that conversation, we may very well wake up one morning and just hear that people say, we don't need all of these waiters anymore, or these waitresses.
We definitely will have to continue this conversation, but I want to bring it back as we are wrapping up. I want to bring back to just your personal tips, because every trailblazer that we have, no matter what we discuss, we spoke about your own journey and your personal story. And I want to find out from you, tell us, how is it that you build up your mental fortitude, especially because you are a well-known person in your profession, but at the same time, as I had earlier mentioned, there are times where you will face opposition from the public. So how do you build up your mental fortitude? And this applies to just, your advice can apply to anybody as well.
All right. Well, for me, there are two things that guide me, and they have always guided me. One is a personal mantra, which is not original, but I really don't know where it originated. But it has been seared in my consciousness that the man or woman who follows the crowd usually gets no further than the crowd. There are a lot of, that's what waganism is about. A lot of people who easily dissolve into the mainstream. Bun Broadcasting Commission, yo, government, we not pay no money. We just want to drive how we drive and do what we want to do. And every time them come and say, them are bringing one rule with Black Road, and we can yo, brethren, yo, a chopper around the place, and yo, we don't know work, so we are scam. We have always been poor, nothing new. What is new is we are covering up what is shameful. That we also know that we have been told, no beg and no thief. And we are doing the complete opposite. There's nothing about scamming to be celebrated. It is disgraceful. It is despicable. But a lot of people are prepared to compromise. So my adage, and it comes with a lot of costs. A lot, I'm telling you. When the man or woman who follows the crowd usually gets no further than the crowd. But when you try to be distinct, there are risks. Some people get assassinated, some people get ostracized, some people, they don't like them. So you have to try to find that gift that God has endowed, and you make the best of it, and don't dissolve into the mainstream. Try to be distinct, and to be distinct, it's about who you are. As you do that, you then bear in mind one thing, that now you're talking about all of these people and what they have to say about this or that or Broadcasting Commission. Listen, the way I see it, I am one little insignificant human being. There was some guy who came here, okay? In brethren them claim say, them say, no, not people say, in brethren them say. You see this brethren here? Me personally see the man there walk on water. Me in a one boat with him, and hurricane come, and the man get up and him say, peace be still. And the hurricane stop, and me see the man walk on water. The man brethren them say, we see the man can't see, and them him touch them yai, and them start see. Man dead, him going there, and the man wake up. Lots of things like that. And then there was a moment of, we need to decide who to kill, him or a criminal. The scribes and the Pharisees, the leaders and the people colluded and said, give us Barabbas. Not only that, them see one of the man brethren and say, wait, Now your brethren that them are killed. Him said that the bread, me no know the man that. Me never seen yet. So us insignificant human beings who try to do what is right, expect the crucifixion. Just hope it will be bearable.
Wow, some pivotal words. Pivotal words there. Thank you so much, Cordell Green, Executive Director, Attorney at Law, Executive Director of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica and Attorney at Law, and a man, as I mentioned, with many titles. Thank you for sharing on the program. It's been a 2-part series. We are so grateful for you sharing in week 1 and week 2 in part 1 and part 2, and continue to be a trailblazer in your field, in your career, in your industry. And we look forward to even greater positive changes that will take place from your initiative. So thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. It was a pleasure. And you keep on being a trailblazer.
Thank you.
As well.
I'm Tamara McKayle, television and radio presenter, producer, communications specialist, and of course, producer and host of the Trailblazers series. And I'm inviting you to be a part of the Trailblazers family as we continue to grow. So all you have to do is just click that subscribe button. Make sure you click that notification bell so you are alerted as to when we have new episodes, and join our family for weekly inspirational episodes that will not only lift your spirits, but give you the tools, the keys, and the strategies that you need so that you can walk in your purpose, blaze your trail, and be all that you have been created to be. Thank you.